Good evening and welcome to Paranormal Talk. I love StreamYard because you never know how long it's going to take to zap you in. Sometimes it feels like 30, 40 seconds. Sometimes it's like blink, you're in. You just never know how this thing's going to work. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on the program. It's a pretty good program all in all. And I was just recently informed that there is a visit. Well, not recently, but fairly recently informed that there is a business version of this. So we'll see how that's going to work out in the near future for all of us. But tonight I have Michael Angley with me. We're going to be just talking about UFOs and things that go bump in the night. But you know, I get these people all the time who say, "Josh, UFO, man." It's like, okay, well, what was it? What was a UFO? Yeah, but what kind of UFO was it? But it was a UFO. Okay, look, UFO means what? Unidentified flying object. Just so y'all know, people. Sitting out on my back porch last night, I seen at least five UFOs, none of which were alien, by the way, or at least I don't think none of which were alien. But they were legitly called UFOs because they were too far out to identify. I had one, boy, we sitting on the back porch barbecuing day before yesterday, and you hear this sound, right? This freaking cargo plane came over so close to the top of my roof, it just rattled everything inside my house as it went over. Every now and then they do that, especially when they're getting ready to go to war. You'll see planes buzzing all over the place, just be general nuisance, blowing shit up, running things down in the ocean, chasing each other around over the Gulf of Mexico. It's a strange scene to behold when you live here. You're like, well, are they invading us? Why is this going on here? But it's a military town for the most part. There's a CB base, a NASA base, and an Air Force base. Pretty big Air Force base too. So there's a lot of shit goes on around here. When we get active into wartime affairs overseas, it gets crazy around here. That and you'll see trains literally 20 miles long carrying nothing but military equipment. When I hear the government say, "Well, we don't have enough equipment," and I see these trains and I'm driving along at 80 miles an hour, I can't find the end of the train. I'm like, really? Really? There's enough tanks here to invade all of Europe. What the hell are you talking about, man? You driving along, and these ain't even the good tanks. These are Averys, but these are older Averys. These ain't even the good stuff, and not like that. No, before anybody writes to me, we did not leave that kind of stuff in to Afghanistan. We left them. We just left them junk, but for the most part, still $84 billion in junk, but still, as far as the military is concerned, junk. Speaking of that, Mark Rosen wrote to me yesterday, or day before yesterday, talking about a sighting he had in Afghanistan 5 days before they were being pulled out. Now, he was a reporter that had been working over. He had been over there for 2.5 years, working the field. He had actually met several Taliban members. He'd been doing reporting all over the place, and he said he was up in the mountains, and one of the guys was going on. He couldn't understand what he was saying. He was pointing at this. And basically, he figured, oh, it's Americans get ready to bomb the shit out of something. Maybe we should get out of here. And the guy said, no, no, no Americans. He said, no American. So he said, well, maybe it's the Chinese or the Russians or somebody. But whatever it was, he said, came over the mountain. It got right above where they were stationed at. He said there was 300 or 400 Taliban all down in this tunnel. And I figured we done bought the farm now, so it hovered right above us. He said it hovered there for about 5 minutes. He said I got a couple of shots of it. He said it was dish shaped. He said it wasn't giving off any real noise at all. It had a weird smell of ozone coming through the air. He said, but other than that, nothing. And it just sat there for a little while, and then it's kind of drifted off, and then it disappeared. He said it was weird because it didn't dart off or anything. It just kind of tilted and started floating away to the east. And he said, and then it was like a blink, like a door opened and closed. He said it just went in and was gone. And
Question. I'm gonna be like Ben, our buddy Ben, when he comes
it
on.
is Ben, man. We need to get
Question.
him.
Question. All right. So, I mean, is the smell of ozone present in all of these things? Is that like a common thing?
No, it's a common thing, but it's not in all of them by any means. And it seems to be more particular with one type of alien than the other type. Even though I've heard it, from with the major three that abduct people, I have heard it, but it really does seem that this is more. This is really just more of one type of alien that seems to do it. Some kind of equipment they use gives off the smell of ozone. Now, people, any kind of electrical equipment can give off the smell of ozone. Like a big generator motor, if you stand near it, you'll smell ozone because it's giving off ozone. Lightning can give off the smell of ozone. There's a lot of things that can give off the smell of ozone. Even a small electric motor in a race car, like when the cars run on a track, can give off the smell of ozone. So there's no real reason from where he was. There was nothing else in the air or in the area but this thing. He said so. That's the only place it could have been coming from. But then it's a weird effect because heat rises, right?
Usually.
So I would have thought the smell would have went up and above the craft and not below the craft. So there must have been some kind of force he couldn't see pushing the smell down. I guess maybe an electrical magnet force or maybe some kind of
Well, it depends
ventilation
on
system.
it depends on weight, how heavy that ozone is versus the air at that time.
And they
If
were
the
way up
air
in the mountains too, so the air would have been thin.
if it's thin and dry, right? So you have a wafting effect. I could see that.
Yeah, so it's what's that? Oh, guys. Oh, you know what, guys? Before we even get started, and I know some of y'all are back on this messenger thing, but that's cool. But the UFO Paranormal YouTube page is open, so you can hit us up there if you want to. There's other places you can hit us besides that. Don't forget, guys, I will be out in LA from the 19th through the 24th, so come out and check me out. Come out and see me. I'll be doing interviews. Any of the iCard members or any of the workers or anybody involved with the radio station who would like to come out and help with the interviews, let me know because I will be out there. I have a lot of interviews to do. So,
And you're putting people up in the Sheridan, is that or no? What is that?
where
The
they
Four
put
Seasons.
this is the Four Seasons. Maybe put me in bed in Four Seasons, old raggedy
Come
ass.
on,
I can do
UPRN
that.
at the Four Seasons, man.
Mhm. Maybe when I get through this big job I'm working right now.
We'd be
Um,
outside. We could go in the
oh, but you know
lobby.
what? No, wait. I'm glad you said that. So look, listen. So listen. This is just weird. So I fly out to LA. This is about 5 years ago for Prometheus Entertainment, which does Ancient Aliens. So I'm out there for my second big appearance on Ancient Aliens. Right? 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever the
I
hell it
remember
is.
that.
So I got this my second appearance out there. So they fly me out there, fly me at business class, which was nice. I wasn't elbowing people in the face. I'm not the littlest guy
You're
on the
yawning on your own show,
yeah,
man.
I apologize. But
Make people fall
people,
asleep.
I work a lot. People, what can I say? When you work like I do, you get tired sometimes. But I don't want to be. I hate sitting on a plane where I got to worry about elbowing a guy next to me in the head or something because I'm stretching. So, but anyway, so they fly me out there, get out there, check into the hotel. So they got me this room way up at the top of the hotel. Great room, man. Great view over LA. You could see the mountains and just nice. Couldn't see the airport, even though you could smell it, bitch, but you couldn't see it. So I go up to the lounge. It came with a lounge pass, the VIP lounge on the top. So it came with VIP pass. So I walked myself up there, and they got cocktails and shrimps and cheeses and stuff. So I'm sitting by the window having a drink. I was drinking a White Russian, sitting by the window, just looking out the window. I was on the phone with somebody actually, and I had my camera running on the phone, the forward camera running, and I kept seeing this thing. I said, "Well, maybe it's a weird reflection in the glass." But when I backed up away from the glass, I could still see it. I could see it through the glass. I was like, "Well, it's not the glass." So anyway, I didn't really know what was on the camera until later on the next day. I flipped it out and wanted to show somebody over at Ancient Aliens. And they're like, "You're shitting me. You caught a UFO on film while you're coming down here to film to talk about aliens." I said, "Yeah, well, I was down to talk about blood types, but still, it was weird to catch it like that. I mean, it wasn't. It was two of them. It was two discs, white discs. They were decent size. You know what it reminded me of? If you ever go back to watching movies from the 50s and the 60s, the old white disc, it looked like that right out of a movie. But it was in the air in front of me. It was a weird thing. I'm not kidding you. It looks like a scene right out of one of those 55 movies.
So let me ask you this: why are they around? Why are they taunting people? Why are they just showing enough of themselves? Obviously, if they don't want to be seen, they could not be seen. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, they're never seen by people who haven't been taken. So, see, people get mad at me for that all the time, just like they
I've
did when I
seen
broke the
them.
nose
They're
off.
not taking me anywhere.
Yeah,
They
they
need a
take it.
big,
But if
extra
you've
large
seen a
ship.
real if you've seen a real ET ship, then you've been taken. There's no ifs ands about it. It's something about being in proximity to them
I've seen it twice.
or being around them that allows you to see them. Because look, they sit over. Here's a perfect example. You live up in New York, perfect example. So, ladies being taken, very famous contactees being taken. So she's being taken out of her window. Oh, it's like 50, 55 stories up, right? So the UFO comes over, it's taking her out of the window. So New York's a busy city, but I doubt many people are walking around looking up because they'll run
Nobody in the
back to
city ever
somebody else.
looks up, man. It's a lure.
So
If you look up, something hits you in the
yeah,
head.
that's what I'm saying. Or you run in the back of something or into something. So, well, the ambassador to the UN was getting out of his car with his two Secret Service guys, and guess what? They saw it. They saw it and they reported it. So they give the report of this woman being taken. And with a couple other people, a couple of cab drivers, because when they started looking, you know how it is. When you look up and look in the air, you stare, and somebody else is going to look up. But anyway, was a couple other reports of this thing being seen. It was a decent sized disc. It was larger than the top of the building, however the largest building was. and it was two aliens and this woman. The woman was being taken out like she was laying down. The two aliens were like standing up. There was nothing underneath them. They're hovering over the they're out of the building, out of the window now, and they're just floating up to the ship. And they go inside the ship, and the ship leaves. Now, you could just take it for what it is and say these bunch of crazy people, but I mean, this guy was ambassador to the UN. Just reporting this was enough to cost him his career. But since the two Secret Service agents backed him up, it was kind of hard for the ambassador to be made to look like a fool because one of the agents went batshit crazy, just like with the Hingles, the two guys who seen the UFO down in Pascagoula. One of them went batshit crazy. This is something that happens with these contactees from time to time. They just lose it. I guess they get tired of not being believed or whatever it is. Too much exposure, not enough exposure. I don't know what it is, but they will go batshit crazy. And in this case, these people did. But the ambassador talked about it a lot until he died. He was like, "No, this is what we saw. We told the government about it. We told everybody about it." And what got me is he never stopped talking about it. But for some reason, the media, just like other things the media doesn't like to talk about, it was too good of a case. You had too good of a witness. It's like the Air Force pilots or the Navy pilots or even military pilots from other militaries. There's been video released from the Russian military, from the Mexican military, from the Australian military, from the British military, even from the Chinese military, and recently even from our military. But yet the press, for some reason, and I don't know why, does not think this is a good story. Is going on? I mean,
because they're told not to.
I don't even think they are being told. Some of them might be, but I don't think the lower range are being told anything. I think they're being just let to do whatever they want. And for some reason, no matter who reports this is still nonsensical bullshit.
It's nothing you can really sink your teeth into either. Having a picture of it streaking across the sky, or seeing something, or even some. I've seen very good pictures. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the same as the contact.
It's not.
The contact needs to happen. Then people will pay attention. Otherwise, it's just what is it? I don't know. You know
Well,
what I mean?
I know this particular alien. We call her Bubbles. She likes to feel your ass cheeks when she walks around. So I'm not sure why, but it's just one of them things. Some of these glowy aliens are touchy feely like that. Maybe it's some kind of peace loving light thing. I'm not
I
sure.
don't know. The aliens I hear about and the ones you talk about are two totally different things. Two totally different things.
Two totally different things. It's funny because people always ask me about the Greys. What about the Greys? Oh, the Greys work for this one. The Greys work for that one. The Greys don't work for anybody. With the exception of light beings, the Greys are probably the most advanced race coming to this planet, hands down. I mean, they're way more advanced than the reptilians or the humans.
Must be
Eons
something
more
that they
advanced.
want. Every creature
Well,
wants something
well, they don't exactly want anything in the way we think
or
of it.
or need.
Well, they don't even need it. So here, there's a dilemma here. Let's look at this from their point of view. So sometime in the recent past, an alien race visited this planet. Okay, for whatever reasons they landed here, maybe had a little small colony going, maybe doing some work. But I guess because the colony was too small or the aliens were too omnipotent, they didn't want to get their fingers dirty. They created a subservient race, which is not us, but it was probably our descendants. It was probably some kind of monkey or something they found locally on the planet that they took and they used their own DNA to intermix with it and create this subservient species that would work for them. Somewhere along the line, the species became big enough that they had to kind of watch it a little bit harder. But
You talking
somewhere
about
along
that
the line,
Stargate movie?
well, no, I guess Stargate's a little different, but somewhere along the line, the reptilians intervened on our behalf.
I think it's different. I think it's if you reverse design what we already have technology wise, and you reverse design, even reverse theorize on where we came from and our abilities and where we're going, but to the origins, yeah, I think that something came here at some time, but I think that they were leaving some other place that they had to, and they came here to survive, and then they had to intermingle and integrate. And this is it's
But
like a
see that wouldn't explain the other two races here. See, that's the problem with this. There's not
that,
only
I'm
one
just
race
talking
there.
about the one thing. I'm not talking about anybody else that could have been
Yeah,
around.
but
I mean,
that's what I'm saying though. It wouldn't have been allowed to happen that way.
I
There's
don't know about allowed. I think that
well, no, you can
if you're
tell
on that
now
level,
because
I think that you can get along with one another. I'd like to think so.
yeah, but that's not the same thing as coming in and interfering on with another species. That's a whole different thing. They're funny about even they're just funny about it for some reason. So even though the Greys were probably themselves,
Reptilians?
All of them are.
You ever been to a
Reptilians.
zoo?
Say, well, you know what's funny about the reptilians? Everybody always thinks the reptilians is evil race. Until they were attacked by the humans, they were omnipotent, but they were very Aquarian type race.
I
They,
don't
they,
believe in
they
any of that
believe
till I
these.
see it, man. I'm in
But
that
but
world.
you can't even escape the reptilians because we know. See, there's certain things we know. We had the Sumerian text, so we know a human-like race came here and created a subspecies. We know that because the Sumerians write about it. But more so, the Sumerians and the Dogon also write about a reptilian race that intervened on behalf of man. It's written in both cultures, so it's
But you
hard to
see,
escape that.
you can't discount the Central Intelligence Agency and their declassified reports of Operation Stargate and how they were mapping out the surface of Mars, and they came upon this big thing about how the people on Mars had to leave, and they chose a planet close to them that it was volcanic, it was eruptive, it was all the stuff going on, but the
Yeah,
one
but
thing it
but
had
that's the
that
problem.
Mars didn't have anymore was vegetation.
Yeah.
So and then so reverse design. Think about DNA. All of DNA falls into A, C, T, and G. If you have those four elements, you can create every being on the planet is A, C, T, and G in their DNA, and then you put them in a certain order, and that's what gets you everything. It even gets you genes, it gets you what color your eyes are, and even when you eat food, it designates the nutrients in that food for that part of that body. That's how sophisticated the human
But
body
see, that
really
doesn't even
is.
explain the whole Central and South America thing. Then,
But I'm saying if your body is that sophisticated, and we know the brain works like a super advanced computer, and there's so many things that we don't even understand about ourselves. That didn't just happen by accident.
no, I don't think
It
it happened
didn't
by accident. I don't
happen.
think
It
any of it
was a
does.
grand
Look,
it
when it
was a
comes
grand
down to this,
design.
when it comes down to this, there's only three ways that man got here. Either God put us here, or panspermia put us here, or ET put us here. There is no other plausible explanations for
You
us
can't
being here.
discount the subway, man.
Yeah,
A lot
you
of
can
people
because
use it.
it would be panspermia, so it would fall into that category. So
That
I'm just
subway
saying
works.
that's where it would fall into that. So that's one of the problems. It's one of those three things that got us here. Now, could it be a combination? Could panspermia have started life on this planet? The Martians came here and died off because they came here way too far, too early before we were here. They were here.
Well,
If they would have had to leave Mars, it would have been 55, 58 million years
where
ago.
where did rhesus negative come from?
Well,
That
it
wasn't
don't,
just a mutation in.
but that only showed up 35,000 years ago. See,
Yeah,
that's what's so weird
35,000
about
years ago.
this.
But that wasn't a mutation in the gene.
That was an
I mean
overall
that, and
mutation.
every scientist agrees it didn't come from this planet. So
Well,
where
they
the
don't know
hell did
where
rhesus negative?
they have no idea where RH negative comes from. They really don't have a clue. All they know for sure is that those citizens may share a different ancestry than the original citizens. And the reason they say that is, before everybody starts writing to me, is RH positive does share 2% of its genes with the rhesus monkey. RH negative does not. There's a clear cut there between the two species. And more so than that, green and blue eyes came from the Rh negative mutation, not from the Rh positive, because we know for at least 2 million years, people had brown eyes, brown hair, and brown skin. That was the citizen population of this planet. Overall, that's what everybody looked like. The blue eye, green eye thing is a relative new mutation, or they would be more of it. They don't, I mean, combined, they only make up 4% of the world's eye colors.
So they
4%.
found that rhesus negative came from that upper area in Europe. That something had to kind of gotten together with whoever was there, if you know what
Well,
I mean.
maybe, but they also found something in South America that makes them wonder as well. So you got to remember, all of South and Central America is 98% oat.
South
Uh,
America, you got the Aztecs, which are mysterious,
and the Toltec.
so deep
Hold on.
in their the mathematical and all that. Then look at Puma Punku. Look at the places
I
in
love
Peru.
the way their names go. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let me cut you off. Oh shit.
I mean, think about the concept. Who's up there at 12,000 feet in the Andes Mountains having a civilization with tens of thousands of people above the tree line, for that matter? I mean, what they were doing up there, they didn't want anybody else to come up. You know what I mean? And those walls that are around, I mean, they surround whatever was in there is gone. Those walls that surround it are so precision and so smooth and so laser cut. You can't. They barely have tools today to do stuff like that.
Water does that though. Water can
Water,
do that.
oh, a long time. Or
But
you know
they,
what?
well, no,
If
no,
you
no, no,
really have
no.
a
High
pumping
speed
system,
water. Yeah, high
well,
speed water can
we're
do
gonna
that.
do how many thousands of years ago is that? So they really have to be able to pressurize that water.
Yeah,
These
but
people
they
are using
can. They
chicken
can.
bones as tools, man. Same for the Hopi Indian. You know what their whole story about the ant people and how, and this is the cool thing, right? When you read about it online, a lot of it's augmented towards the group that's telling the story. This is how the you want to hear how the real story goes because I got this guy Wally Brown, and he is a Navajo chief. He's a friend of mine. He lives in Arizona, but he's got the story, man. So the ant people put out a tone that was in people's heads, and they all went to this one place. These Native Americans, right? And they went underground. But the way he describes it doesn't sound like they went underground. It just sounded like they went into some kind of vessel, and then they were there for a time, and then they were teaching them how to grow things, how to make those mud houses and all that. Like really cool stuff, and not just that, teaching them how to organize their society. You know how to like have basically their own little constitution. And when they came out into the fourth world, which is the world we're in now, they had all these different things and tools, and then really cool stuff. I mean, so much stories going on there. But look at that Chaco Canyon, and then there's an Aztec pyramid there, you know, in Chaco, just north of Chaco Canyon. So you have the mixing of all of these cultures: Aztec, Native American. They're bonding together. They're building societies. I mean, but the ant people, they describe them as the ant-shaped heads with the big eyes. Every gray I've ever seen of a picture of every gray looks like that. I mean, you know, who's to say that they didn't scoop them up and they didn't come get them? They made them come to them. So the nearest I could figure is this city called Moab. You ever heard of Moab?
Yeah, it does sound
In,
familiar for some
just in
reason.
Utah Colorado border.
Oh,
That
that's
feel
probably why.
it feels like that's where they were called and that's where they went. And then they were taken away for the calamity. Before that calamity happened, the whole Southwest, the whole area out there was plush and green. And the Navajo don't tell the story of coming over that bridge from Russia. They tell the story of coming from the east and crossing great rivers to get where they went, and that they were called there. It was really cool though to hear these old stories. Man, these stories were told for so many thousands of years. You know what I mean? That to me is the best history. But I believe in the ant people.
But there's a lot of those Indian stories. I mean, the Aborigine has stories. All the South Americans, the ancestors of Toltecs and the Aztecs and the Incans and the Mayans all have stories. You got
Well,
a whole species down there with a different sized head than we have.
they gave people two directions to choose the direction of like the city will say where it's not spiritual, the just about the money and about the power and about people defining themselves in wealth really, or the way of the spirit, and cultivating your spirit like a beautiful garden and moving forward with that. And a lot of people chose the city, they chose that direction, and then they suffer because of it, but whatever. I think that they're all cool stories, all of them.
Well, no,
And there's a lot of UFO activity out there, a
well,
lot.
that's what I was getting ready to say. If you, it's almost like somebody way back 20 or 30,000 years ago decided to try. Well, okay, we'll have the Europeans and the Africans and all, and they'll live on this side, and we'll just do this over here and see. Because really, when you look at them, the Indians versus the Europeans, it's two entirely different cultures. They grew up entirely different, even though the Indians for some reason had all their little tribes. For the most part, they weren't killing each other. They got along pretty well. There was a few that were pretty nasty, but for the
Joe,
most
we
part,
have
they
to
were.
say that today is Indigenous Peoples Day here in the United States of America
Hello,
and
indigenous
Thanksgiving in
people.
Canada. So,
I'm an indigenous person.
do you know how I found out it was Indigenous Peoples Day? I tried going to the post office and it was closed. And I'm like, it's Monday. Then I had to think, is this Monday or Sunday? How screwed up am I?
No, no,
Then I
well,
tried going to the bank and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. They close for any reason, man.
of
What does
course
a
they
bank
do,
do?
man.
What does a bank do? It's like a big wallet. It holds your money. They lend people. They do that. But what does a bank do to close on all these holidays?
But that's their job to close, man. I mean,
I'm
come on.
indigenous. I was born in El Paso, Texas. I'm from the United States.
Hey, I'm part Cherokee. I'm indigenous, but that don't mean squat.
See,
Hey, for that matter, I got some Welsh, some Irish, and some Scottish in me too. So that's being
I got two
bacon there.
percent Welsh and 2% Irish.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying. If you got all that in you, at least part Viking. Yes, coming with me, people. I wish.
I
Yeah.
got
Anyway,
German,
for another
Italian,
show.
Slavic, a little bit
It's
of Greek.
it's weird for me. I got Mediterranean, and then I've got Northern European, or I should
I'm an
say
Earthling,
Western
damn it.
European.
Earthling.
Yes, we all should be Earthlings, but nobody listens. We tell people that all the time. Everybody should remember that they're just Earthlings and not get caught up in all this country thing. Oh, remind me when we do the Centralist. I caught a very interesting. Actually, I don't even know how this happened. I caught three different shows on Wuhan today, totally
Okay.
by accident. So one of them was an independent done by Sky News. They did an independent. They talked to Trump and all kind of other people, all kind of people. Very interesting. Makes you very worried. I
I
caught
watch
the
Sky
one.
News.
I caught the one that the WHO did. The WHO's actual final conclusion was that they thought this virus had been manipulated. That's their final conclusion.
I still say Pete Townsend's a great guitarist.
Yeah, he's a good guitarist. And then CDC also seems to think that in the end, so they all agree that it probably came from a bat in the beginning. So what I found out
We
was
already
this
know that. Come on,
this
man.
woman this woman who was in charge of virology for the Wuhan lab, she spent 2 decades going to bat caves collecting bat samples.
Is she like Batman?
So listen, the reason why she had sent some people to this one cave, it killed six of them in like 4 days. So they went there and started collecting
See,
samples, and they have been all the time.
when I think of having a job, that's like the opposite.
Uh,
I'm going to a bat cave and get killed by bats. Nah, that's not going to be the way I'm going out.
I know you're thinking, and when you get on the other side, well, how'd you die? Oh, I smelled some bat crap, and I'm dead
I'd
now.
rather
Really?
die. Oh, how many die? I ate too many cheeseburgers, man. Oh, but
Well, that's
at
called
least it's
cardiac
something.
arrest.
It's better than getting bitten by
Mm.
bats.
They
You
didn't
know
get.
what I
That's what I'm
mean?
saying. They didn't get bit by bats. It was they was taking manure samples, bat manure, and the smell killed them.
Oh my god.
So, yeah, so I was
No, I
like,
know the
"Oh, I'm
original
sorry.
story.
Three died and three survived. I
I know
apologize."
the original story with Wuhan, man,
But that was 2 decades before Wuhan.
it was told by the South China University, and they printed the story until the communist government realized they did it and took it away from them. But they said that one of the scientists got bitten by a bat in the lab, and they're the ones who got sick, and they're the ones who spread the virus around. It was that simple, and it didn't come from that wet market. The wet market was an easy place to
Yeah,
blame because it's 2 blocks away
oh,
from the lab. You know what I mean? Like the lab is right behind the wet market. So that was an
so
easy place to blame for the outbreak, but it didn't
so
happen like that.
one of China's senators who was put in prison and then somehow escaped and came to the United States and got asylum. He actually sent the government information 2 years ago telling them this was going to happen. Not just our government. He also sent news agencies and other people. He actually sent the information out there saying this is what was going
Well,
to happen.
back when they were building the lab, every scientist in the world were up in arms saying that they can't be allowed to do this. But then the CDC gets along with them and gives them a bunch of money along with
Oh,
the
it was
WHO
worse than that.
to to
We'll get it.
to
We'll say
build
that for Friday, though. But it was worse than
to
that.
build that lab. You know what I mean? Like, so our hands are in it, and a lot of people's hands are in it,
Oh
and these
yeah,
things aren't supposed to
but
get out. But it comes down to China's terrible security and their
it's worse than
lax way
that,
of
though.
doing everything.
But it's far worse now. But ladies and gentlemen, we can do the Centrals on Fridays, and Mike and I'll be talking about this, and hopefully Jay will be joining us as well. We'll be
Yeah,
talking
we
about
got
this.
this new person, Dana. Man, she's coming
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Dana,
So there'll be four
Dana
of us there.
Paramita.
So one of the things we're gonna discuss is whose fingers was in the cookie jar and how many military people got sick military week in Wuhan. It was in October of
Yeah.
the year of 19 before we said something in January here. So anyway, we're going to talk about all of that. That's all in there. We'll have to stay within the guidelines of what YouTube thinks is correct, which I doubt we'll be able to do that. So we may have to pull the shows over YouTube. But still, they get so touchy about anything you talk about Wuhan or COVID, anything they get all touchy, and they want to get upset. So they had hit me on a flag just recently, something else, and I said, no, Donald Trump said that, and they said, no, he didn't. So I sent them the clip, and of course they had to take it off. I was like, no, he did say, I'm sorry, guys, because he also said he had on good resources, good sources, which he wouldn't mention who it was, that they were body bags in front of Wuhan, in front of the lab. I was like, oh, really, joy. So anyway, we'll find out in the end what all that was one of these days when we're all. I'll probably be 100 walking around with King on Wuhan. What you? What? Huh? What? No, I won't even understand what the hell they're saying back then. But it's all interesting stuff, people, the way
One
things.
thing for sure, Joe, it changed the way everyone is living forever. I don't think it's ever going to go back to what status quo normal is. Even I was sitting, I was talking to my sister yesterday, and I'm like, you know what, I'm not really a restaurant kind of guy. When I was in a relationship, I had to sign a deal where I'd go to restaurants a couple times a week, and I resented it. So but I got to choose them, and I got to choose the time of day that we went there. So I would choose the most dead times of day, be the only ones in the whole place, which is my favorite. And the reality is this: I like to cook for myself, right? And on top of that, there are restaurants that I really like. That there's one called Sheridan, and what was it called? Yeah. And Maria's Casita. I like that one. That's these are all these little lake towns in the Finger Lakes. You know what I mean? Uh, so I mean, it was nice going in there, sitting there, beautiful ambiance. You got the lake across the street in one place, and the other place you just kind of chill
Well,
out. But all that, but just sitting there thinking like, okay, I'm sitting here, but I could be breathing somebody's bugs, and COVID is such a, and believe me, I know about COVID. You know what I mean? I just worked the last 14 days overtime from 9 to 7, beating back the quarantine, and it's just incredible. The nursing staff out there, the doctors that are one being forced to get vaccinated, but forcing them is making them quit. It's not having the effect that they wanted to have. I'm vaccinated, Joe. You're vaccinated, and
yes, but wait. While we're on it, stop for a second. I want to thank Mayor De Blasio and Governor Newsom and Mr. Pink Shorts in Canada because of y'all, New Orleans has been building this massive medical center down here, Tulane and Oshner and LSU. This thing is massive. It's like 3 miles long, 2 miles. It's massive, and they said it would be at least a decade before it would be fully staffed. Guess what? It's going to be fully staffed before the end of the year, thanks to New York,
didn't The Walking Dead do a thing
California.
about like a hospital in New
Oh,
Orleans
this
and
thing is
all the
massive. This is going
zombies
to be
came from?
it's going to be the biggest research center in the world by far. Ocean is already we already got a huge Ocean presence down here to start off with.
Well, you got the
And
big
Elliot,
CDC in Atlanta there.
yeah, and then
That's
CDC
not
is up there in
far.
Atlanta, and so I mean, it's just for some reason the South really took a lead in building big hospitals and big research centers. Maybe because it's 'cause the cancer rates are higher in the South, so they maybe
You know
that's why. But
why? Because you eat all that freaking pork, man. Oh my
they
god.
got into it pork, man.
Ugh.
Um, the
Ugh.
only thing I can think it has to do with is all these refineries all around. I imagine if you
Well,
live
you
close to a
know what?
refinery town, you're kicking 10 years off your life.
There are towns in Alabama, there are towns in Mississippi that were bought and sold by pesticide companies, and those I took courses on disease clusters, and it's very interesting to see. It's actually right in front of your face. They don't care. They don't do anything about it. They try to treat things, but yeah, there's cancer clusters in New Jersey and in all kinds of places where you have this element of chemicals, man. These are old and they're grandfathered in. So on top of that, they can do things that other people can't do, but then they buy politicians, and that's kind of how it
Yes, it
goes.
is. Anyway, I know we're getting bitched at because we're not talking about UFOs, but you know what? But on a side note, since we were talking about all of this, people ask me all the time, why won't ET get involved? But that's a good question. Why don't they get involved in any of this? All
Why
this
does
stuff
anybody
Mike and
want
I
to
are
get
talking about.
involved in anything?
Well,
Do you,
why,
do
why
you
don't
get
ET
involved?
just why don't just ET just hand us a cure for all of this and be done and no more COVID?
Because there's no fun
Uh,
in it.
no, COVID. Christopher, I know since we talked about it, I'll say this. I'll say this. I agree with Mike for the most part that a lot of normal is not going to come back, but it's different in the South. We're already headed back to normal. We put our finger up to presidents, you know what, and we're just going on with our lives. So it's different here, but for the North and the West, it's going to take a lot longer
Hey
to
man,
get back to
we're not
normal.
even into
But
the
here,
cold
it's not
weather
here.
yet up
Yeah,
here. Wait till the cold weather hits.
Joshua was
You
right.
got
Joshua
you
said,
got you got another month before it gets really cold up here.
yeah,
And then that's
Joshua
going
was
to spread the bug.
yeah, Josh was in chat in the room with us, and he's like, because they don't give a shit. Well, you're right, they don't, because There's a lot of people ask me all the time, why don't ET do this? Why don't ET do that? Why don't ET? Well, I don't know. They didn't clean up Chernobyl. People ask me because my Peace, Love, and Light friends drive me batshit crazy with this. Joe, they're here to save us. They love us. They're warning us about the planet. They're warning us about this. They're warning us about that. I'm like, really? Why don't they do something about it? I said, warning us ain't gonna do shit now. When the UFO lands on Moscow front yard, I said, you know what? Get rid of
I don't
nukes and
believe in
clean
any
it
of
up,
that.
or else. So, but you don't have to believe it because all you're just looking around the planet. There's none of that peace, love, and light shit going on. The planet's in peril in all sorts of ways. Not Let me rephrase that. The planet's not in peril. Humans are in peril. Planet's not going anywhere. Even if
So
we
do
all
they
died, the
do
planet
they
will still
think
be here.
do they think that the politicians are there for them? That they're there to save them and help them? Of course not. You know what, man? A lot of people just sit there and do nothing. But yet, if they do interfere every time humans do something stupid, there goes your free will, right?
Yeah,
You know,
they're not going to interfere with that
you
because
need
it's
to
not.
learn
It's
from your mistakes.
Well, they don't want to be blamed for all of our crap. Let's be honest about it. So if ET is out there and they are watching us, they're not going to. So okay, oh, we knew Chernobyl was going to stop, so we fixed it. Well, why didn't you save my mom? Why didn't you save my daddy? Well, it just doesn't work for them. They need to wait till we mature to a much older race, and we're just not nowhere near that yet. We're ignorant. Let's just put it. Let's be honest about it. We're ignorant species.
Dude, there
Uh,
there are
I mean, we still use paper to clean
humans
our
on the
butts,
planet
man.
right now that are wearing loincloths, that are using spears.
That's
They
true too.
they are headhunters and all that. So so the roots are very primitive. Just because we use toilet paper doesn't mean we're evolved. You know what I mean?
Well, that's
And
what I'm
why would
saying because we
ET
use
uh,
politics. We're
after
unevolved.
observing humans have an adversarial nature? Because of that alone, you can't trust them, man, and you can't put weapons in people's hands that don't belong having them. You
Yeah.
know. So
Well,
that's what they would want. They'd want the technology. Any government would want that technology to have a one up on somebody else and have some massive weapon. It's not about evolving.
until we're one world, we're not going anywhere. As long as you've got America, China, and Russia playing the triad, we're not going anywhere.
Dude,
Uh,
I see people as my brothers and sisters, man. I don't care where they come from. I don't care what they are. You know what I mean? And I treat everybody the same, equally terrible. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
equally terrible. That's right.
So,
Well, oh, you
but
know what?
the,
You know what? No, and this is UFO related, people. So I caught Elon's Musk. I caught the little TV
you
series they
caught
did on the
Elon's
line. Yeah, I caught his Musk, man. It was stinky too. But anyway, moving on from
Musk.
that.
It's
Yeah.
very
So
sexy.
anyway, so when I watched a little series the other day, I noticed when he was in the control room, he looked like he's about to crap himself. He was so stressed. I noticed the rest of the series didn't show him that much because he was, he's got four
How do you
civilians.
look just before you crap yourself? What kind
He
of
was
face
like,
do you
I
make?
don't know personally, but still,
I
he
want you
looked.
to make the face right now, like right
I
before you
couldn't
crap
make his
yourself.
face. I couldn't make his face. It was too horrible to try to repeat. I have to go take bring a shot of it and put it on you. I mean, he literally looked like it was just sad. I felt for the man actually,
I've
but
seen him dumbfounded. That truck that he has when they threw that thing through the window, like it was supposed to stop 9 millimeter bullets, and they took that thing of metal and then he was like dumbfounded. That was cool though. It was real. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I
well,
like Elon.
he's like that. He is. So anyway, getting back to that, so they did I think it was a 4-part series on them. How they picked the people, the whole 9 yards. Now, sending 4 civilians to space is cool to start off with. That's like sending me, you, and the girls to space. It's going to be a riot no matter what.
Me and a
So
million.
no, you're not allowed to go
Do we
anywhere with a
get do we
million.
get to be in
You're
our
not
own
allowed
little
to go
our
anywhere with a
own little
million. Okay,
capsule?
no, no.
Have some nice cheeses
I'm the
and
wee old
crisps on hand.
grandpa here, and y'all ain't even allowed to talk in the
Little
same room together.
champagne.
Now, when I go up to eat at La Amelia's pizza restaurant, I'll let you know how it tastes. But until then, you're banned, buddy. You're on a ban list.
I'm only 3 hours away from her,
And
man.
you're still on the
You're all
ban
the hell the
list.
way down there
Hey,
in
hey,
Toxic Town. It
I have grays. I have grays
sounds
that have
like.
lasers focused on your ass. You better watch out. I'll have melt your little ass. It's
I like
yeah.
melted cheese. Who
Yeah,
says I don't like
you be
cheese?
melted cheese is what you'll be. I don't want to hear that. Oh, so I come Thursday. I mean, where's Mike at?
I went
It's like,
out as a cheese souffle.
so where's Mike at? I don't know where he's at. Week goes by, I still no Mike. We're like, yeah, you see Mike? No, he never made it up here. Yeah, become cheese souffle in cans, being sold in cans, buddy.
I
I
would
can see
whisk
it now.
I would whisk her away with my American might
Oh
and
my god, this is an R-rated show, people. I'm just telling y'all. It's
I have a good edge on the exchange rate up there, man. I'll be doing all right. There's
but
not a lot
but
of places Americans could go where our money goes
but
far.
but being serious for a moment, I mean, watching that series, really, I mean, it's something I've been preaching for 25 years now on air. You know, the only way we're going to ever get into space is privatized, and he proved it. He shot him up there. They had a blast. They came back. They're all best friends
He
now.
doesn't believe in aliens, though,
Yeah.
man.
Oh, he does, most certainly does believe in aliens.
He
Uh,
doesn't. He always says the opposite.
well, he's admitted
That
to
he doesn't know. He just says he doesn't know. That's what he
no, no,
says.
no, no.
It's not like he doesn't believe. He said he doesn't know.
When he was talking with oh, what's his name that used to own the Skinwalker Ranch, they both agreed that there's something immensely more advanced than we are visiting the planet. They both agreed to that. Now, what do you want to say? Is it us from the future or us from the past coming forward? Whatever you want to believe, but they both agree that there's something way more advanced than us visiting the planet. There's just things that are found like O parts that you can't that date back, a million years. And how the hell did a
There's
sprocket
no
do a million years?
mathematical blockades for time
So,
travel.
no, there's not really. But we do
No,
you want
there's
really
not at
want do
all.
you really want
There's
humans
no.
time traveling?
There are no mathematical blockades. And
Oh, what happened? You froze.
math is where it's at. If you're talking about science, you're talking math because everything comes down to an equation.
So
Then
getting
everything you
back to that.
see, all these videos are voices right now. People aren't hearing our voices. They're hearing a computer
Are you
simulation
going
of
to
our
go
voices.
stay at the Shea Moon Hotel when it's built? So
I want the Four Seasons, man.
I don't know. They're going to build several hotels. So in the beginning, there was only one schedule. Now all of a sudden, there's five scheduled. So everybody I've heard talk about this, from Bezos to Branson to Musk, all say the same thing. They want this to be space travel. They want you to be able to go to space, spend 4 days at a hotel in space, have a good time, the whole 9 yards. Have the whole spec from weightlessness to weight to having a G gravity environment, so you can have a good time and come home. Just like if you went out to Europe, a
Is
vacation to
that a
Europe.
good time? Weightlessness for 4 days? I think that's an
No, no, no. See,
endurance.
it's not going to be weightlessness for 4 days. That's what they're saying. So you can have it both ways. The things are actually going to be spinning.
They're
So
going to simulate
it'll be
gravity.
yes, it'll be a 1G environment, but you'll have the ability to turn the 1G environment off. Like on a dance floor, they were already talking about one of the dance floors will be weightless. Uh, it's going to be funny watching people dancing weightless.
And how much are we talking? Like 250,000
No,
bucks
they're
for a
talking
ticket?
5 to 6 grand.
Is that what it's?
No, 5 to 6 G's. That they because you see this is how they looked at it, and Musk made a pretty good point, but Benson made it even better. He said, "Look at it from our point of view." He said, "I own hotels, this, that, and other thing." So yes, we could send up a couple of rich people, but eventually we're going to run out of rich people. But he said there are 7 billion of y'all that can afford $5,000. He said, "You do the math." He said, and he's right. Even if just 10% of them go, they'll be so rich that they'll make themselves look like poor people today.
Isn't that the sad part of that? All these people's quest, it's always about the
But
dollar,
it's not
and
about
not
the dollar.
about
That's
research. It's
not.
not about expanding
That's
yourself.
not true. When you listen to Bronson and Benson and Musk, it is about exploration. It is about getting in space. Elon wants to go live on Mars. That's just how it is. He wants to have his
He
own
wants to
Martian
die on
colony.
Mars. He said.
Yeah, he wants to have his own Martian colony with its own rules. In other
Well, he's
words,
got a car there.
so he's already got a nice Tesla waiting for him. So his deal is he wants to build a colony free from the Earth's rules. He wants to be a fresh new set of rules and a fresh new world. Well, that's all fine as long as you don't go push off Americans or Russians or the Chinese because they're going to be building colonies there as well.
Dude,
See,
that's very James Bond villain right there.
I thought
I've
about
seen
that.
that.
I
What
thought
was
about that with Moonraker.
Moonraker?
I thought about
Yeah.
Moonraker when he said that. I got people. If y'all have never seen Moonraker, it's a James Bond movie. Go check it out with Roger Moore. I think is the Bond, but and Jaws
I
is
just watched a
the
James Bond movie last night, that Quantum of Solace, whatever. I really haven't seen any of those movies, like maybe bits and pieces, but I just don't have the patience to sit down that long to watch movies anymore. But
because
man,
it's
it was terrible. What's terrible about it? It was just it wasn't any kind of story. It was just more like BS, and they're making like women superheroes, and it just doesn't work like
well,
that. Like everything
so
they're suggesting doesn't work like that.
so the next Bond's supposed to be a woman. The next Thor's going to be a woman,
Well, they're going to
and
kill the
next
series.
Captain America
That's
is
what they're
going to
going
be
to
a woman.
call it. To kill a franchise.
They haven't learned anything. You think they'd learn by now, but hey,
Well, Ghostbusters, they went all. Why go all? You know what? Why bother?
it was a
Why not
big
just
flop.
mix it up? Just mix it
And
up. 50-50, man.
well, no, because you can do that, but you can't portray it the way you did. You have to say they just did the wrong storyline. Because Ghostbusters is something that can be fed off of the new Ghostbuster world, the new Ghost Chases,
Yeah,
family,
but it
friends,
doesn't
whatever.
have to
They
be
just
like all women.
yeah,
It
that's just a
can be.
stupid statement. Yeah, but I do got to say this. What's his name? Who's it? Was that Thor or Captain Kirk Thor? He played a good doofus, man. I gotta give him credit. He played a good doofus. In case y'all didn't see the one with all four women, Thor plays the guy, the secretary or whatever the hell he was, and where the goofy girl used to play it in the original. It's just he was pretty good. The rest of it was kind of stupid, but it's just
They blame men for not going to watch those movies, like that Ocean's. What
because
was it?
we're
Ocean's
not.
8, where it was all the women or whatever.
Yeah, we're
It's
not
like
gonna
I
watch
don't
that.
like
We're
those
not
movies
interested.
anyway, man. And I watch things 20 years after they make them. That's why I'm always shocked. Like I watch a series, right? Like The Office. I'll binge watch The Office, and then that's really cool. And then when I see the people like present day, I'm like, oh my god, did they age terribly? Because it was 20 years ago. Like all these things were such a long time ago.
Well, it's well, a lot of it is, but it's
Maybe not The Office. I mean, that was like how long ago was The Office?
but
It was quite a while
but
ago.
that's another weird thing in the James Bond movies. So in 11, or no, I'm sorry, in 12 of the James Bond movies, there was UFOs filmed. The original Jaws, there's a UFO in the original Jaws movie. It's
I
not the
like
only.
the
There are
dude.
dozens of them out there like
I
that.
like the James Bond. I like him. I didn't like the last
Oh,
several that they had.
who we got now?
That little
I
guy.
don't know. I don't know. He's all right, I guess.
You know what? He's tough. He's small. He's scrappy. He's exactly the kind of guy you think would be an agent. You know what I mean? But
No,
yeah, I
Chris,
mean
he's
that's
not.
cool.
Chris said that he ain't a UFO. He don't want to hear about it. Hey, you know what? They might make a UFO
Should I
James
tell my
Bond
UFO story?
eventually. Eventually, they might make a James Bond. But no, I want to get back talking to the billionaires. So we have
Should I
four
tell my
billionaires.
UFO story? I think
And,
billionaires is out of people's reach.
no, four. We
My
want to talk about
UFO
the four
story
billionaires.
is real and it happened and it's something that
Well, no, this is just a
it's
true
something that kind of
question.
shaped me a little bit when it made me think about.
It shaped you, huh?
If
I'm
anybody
hearing you
wants to hear
got to
my
run,
UFO
baby.
story, you can write in. I want to hear Angley's UFO story.
Right. But anyway, before we can tell them in a minute. Before we go there, look. So one of the four main billionaires that are building to go to space race has actually seen a UFO up close and personal. Now, who was it? Yes. Does anyone ever wonder why Bigelow bought the ranch and then sold it? Bigelow's
I don't
aerospace.
follow any of that
See,
stuff, man.
Bigelow started out as aerospace. I mean, after he made his original money, he started out as aerospace because he wants to go meet ET. He'll tell you, I want to meet ET. He has no doubt. The reason he buys and gets involved with ventures like Move Home, which was a total joke for him, they just spend his money and then give him shit, and made him feel like an idiot, which is a shame because the guy was trying to help out. But the reason he does it is because he's figuring he might get the first real advanced technology and be able to capitalize on it. So he wants to meet ET, but he also wants to get richer. Maybe he figures he can do both. I don't know. I mean, these guys are going to change. They're going to revolutionize spaceflight that the United States, Russia, and China combined can't do. So you've got, remember this, ladies and gentlemen, China was the third most space launches last year. They were tied with the United States. Well, they were two behind NASA for space launches, but everybody forgets that the private industry launched more than NASA did with 26 missions. So they're putting up more spaceships than even NASA is, and now that they're expected next year to put more than NASA and China combined. So that's where we're going. We're going privatizing. China's might as well deal with it, because they're not going to be able to compete. You're not going to be able to compete launching things in space. NASA's not going to be able to compete with
The first,
Amazon's fleet going to Mars. Oh, you know what? I got to send Bob a package on Mars. Who are you going to pick? Amazon. Of course, he owns the damn
see,
base.
right now it's tourism, man, but it's going to be mining.
So
Mining is
it'll be
going to be
mining. That's going to be one
that's
of
the
the very
next step,
first things.
and that's going to be where the trillions upon trillions start coming down of all the resources they find on these asteroids and all that, and they're already planning
Well,
it and
there's
doing
actually
it.
a blueprint for
You know?
this, and most people don't realize the
Oh yeah,
blueprint came out in the late '60s. But the original blueprint was to build several bases on the moon, not just for tourism, but to to gather helium-3 to help launch our rockets. And then from there, they want to build a launching platform in zone L11 so they can shoot straight through the middle of the solar system and pick up that wind that actually help them pick up speed. Next place is they want to start building colonies on Mars. But in order to do that, they need access to the mining, the asteroid belts as well. So you'll see a joint venture there. You'll see Mars being colonized and the asteroid belt being done as well. And that'll turn into a huge industry. I mean, within no time at all, there'll be 1 million, 2 million people living on Mars. There'll be at least 10,000, 100,000 working in the asteroid belts. And that's just a start. That's just a stepping stone. After that, we've got the whole entire solar system loaded with minerals to go mine and get involved with. You'll just see us
Now,
get
now you
started and
know why
started and
there's
started
seven
out.
and a half billion people on the planet.
Yeah, because
Need
we need them.
workers.
Yeah, we need them. And by the time we do this, by the time we reach 10 billion people, we'll have big colonies on Mars. We'll have colonies out in the asteroid belt. We'll probably have colonies on Europa, a couple of the other moons around Jupiter and Saturn.
Humans spread out like an infectious disease.
I've already heard plans of building a mining operation on Pluto. I don't even know what the hell they mine. Some shit they seen under the ice down there. Some billionaire wants to go mine. And then lithium. We'll find that all over the galaxy. So um, it, minerals here become less important, and once you get a big chain going, once it's a big production line going, then of course prices will steadily come down, come down, come down.
So what's the difference between that outlook? Like you have people, let's say that, yeah, they're going to colonize Mars. They're moving into that direction. We already have equipment there. They're coming up with the idea of how to even to create oxygen there and do the whole bit. But then for what though? It's going to be for that mining operation. It's not going to be for culture and reaching out.
Well, no, that's partially true and partially not true because this is what everybody forgets. It's this. So look at Mars like you would look at the Wild Wild West. So this is what's going to really happen. We're going to start putting people there, men and women, to start working in mining. And so people will go out in the asteroid belts and mine, and they'll probably refine the stuff on Mars because the actual chemicals that are released will actually help to thicken the atmosphere. So here we don't want the greenhouse effect on Mars. We do. So there
Yeah,
they'll just
they've
be
got to
using it.
terraform the
Yeah, so
planet,
they got to
man.
test. So they can be using that refined stuff to actually it'll do two things. It'll keep that shit from coming to our planet unrefined, and it'll help thicken up the atmosphere there so that eventually they won't have to wear pressure suits. Just have to wear oxygen masks, but not pressure suits. So that'll make things much easier as it goes. So you'll see a progression, and then what you'll start seeing is the people who come for the people who have the money. So all the miners will be loaded fat with money, but they won't have any way to spend it. Well, the hookers will show up, the saloons will show up, the dining joints will show up.
It's
Eventually,
just an
cities will
instant
pop up.
replay.
It is,
It's an
except
instant
it's on
replay.
another planet. It's like the Wild Wild West reset or the Wild West Part Two or something, because that's what
What's
it's
the
going to
what,
be.
what's the worth in all of that?
Well, it
I mean,
saves our
for you,
species.
the individual, the Buddhist says we're all on our own individual mission,
That's right.
and it maybe we'll cling to some people at times, and we're with people. Maybe they'll be gone, but you yourself and what you get out of every day,
What you get out
that's
of
what
that is the
gets me.
satisfaction of saving your species.
Look how easily controllable people are.
Because at this rate, within 500 years, we'll have people from one end of the solar system to the other end, and we'll be getting ready to get to another solar system. We'll be headed
In 500
to
years,
Proxima.
you and I will be just two brains in a jar on UPRN, talking back and forth.
Oh, we'll have what's his name, Fry, running back and mixing the drinks for us and dumping them in the thing. Shh. Well, that's from Futurama, people, in case you know what I'm talking
Brains in a jar.
about. Some of you youngins might not know what Futurama is. You Z Gens. Millennials will know what Futurama
They
is.
say brains can live on.
Well, energy can live on, that's for sure. Um, and that might be what
Brains
a,
in a
what a
jar.
lot of ET is about. It's just learning what our energy is doing, where we're headed, where we're focusing. Because regardless how we got here, we seem to share at least three DNAs of aliens now. So I would keep an eye on us too. We might overnight just become some omnipotent super race. So, it's good because we learn fast. We catch on to things quick, but we also get stalled really easy. So, and what I mean by that, people, if you went back to the Roman Senate 2,000 years ago, or 2,500 years ago, right? And you sat and listened, and you came back to the United States and sat and listened to our Senate or any Senate in the world, it wouldn't sound much different to you. The problem would be the same infrastructure. Everything would be the same. The only difference between us and them is the technology. But the way of thinking is not really changed any on our planet. We still are bound down by gods. We're still worshiping this, worshiping that. We're still greedy, pigified. We're just, unfortunately, we just haven't as a species evolved that much. Technologically, yes. Mentally, not so much. There's really not much difference. Or if you go back to the Middle Ages, there's not much difference between us and them now.
If you're looking to breed a species, that's what happened with humans, because now we have big food systems, we have big water systems, we have ways to grow people so people can go out and have other babies and keep going, you know? So, I mean, but aside from that, and a little bit of art and a couple of movies here and there, what is really humanity? What has humanity wrought? And what has humanity brought to anything, to the universe, to the spectrum of the universe, or even to each other? What, Joe? What?
Animals, man, animals.
You mean chicken? You
I'm,
talking
I'm,
about chicken?
I'm not ready for, but I'm
Are
ready
you
for a
are you
change.
picking on the chickens?
Yeah, I wish. I wish for our civilization to become more enlightened, but nothing wants it to go there. Everybody's pushing against it. I mean, you've got 200 countries on the planet, which sometimes you might get 150 of them to agree, but you can never get all of them to agree.
Because humans are adversarial creatures. Even people who aren't terrible evil drivers, when you're going to pass them, they speed up
But
to
there
make
is
it
a way
harder.
to fix
Because
that.
people don't like that. They don't like when someone sees something that they're taking over or they're moving a certain direction, and the other one wants more. And then you have the followers. There's followers out there too,
Lots of
lots and lots
followers.
and lots. They're
There's
scary.
lots of followers.
They're this here. They're in that clip that you played of the New York governor. That's some scary stuff, dude. If any alien wants to come, and New York, you know something, not for nothing. I am right on one of the biggest lakes in New York State, and they're always seeing activity around here, always, all the
Oh
time.
yeah.
And these lakes are 650 feet deep or more.
Well, deep water channels are always hot spots. That's
These are glacier lakes, man. You know,
they
but
like deep
people.
water because it's easy to hide their shit.
And right where I am, exactly where I am, four ley lines intersect. What do you think of that?
Hmm. I go back and forth on the ley line. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. I don't know what that
None
is.
alike. It's just they are what they are.
No, no, no,
But
no.
a
But the
lot of
ley
people
lines.
believe that UFOs use them to guide around the planet using the magnetic frequencies off of them. You know,
Yeah,
I
they
don't know.
might, but I would think that they probably just scan the whole
I don't
planet
believe
the way they
anything
have
till
it
I
done.
see it. I want one to land in front of me, come out, hang out, maybe have some cappuccino. I
Uh,
want to take their ship for a ride.
so, but who do you want to meet? You know, you have at least three ancestries in you, so you have a reptilian heritage because it's
Who
in your
do I
brain.
want to meet?
Well, I'm just saying, if you go, if when it comes to the aliens, we know we have part human because we look more like them. We also know we have part reptilian because we act more like them.
I would want to meet Lao Tzu because I know we could hang out and have a laugh. You know what I mean? Jesus, of course. You know, no matter who you are, you want to hang out with Jesus, man. And I don't know about the third. How about you, man? I got to think about the third.
No, right now, no. I was
Elvis
asking.
Presley, maybe Elvis partied hard, man, and he was a real gracious host. I think Elvis. I don't like his music, but I think he's a funny friggin' dude.
Elvis was definitely an alien, no doubt about that. You didn't watch Men in Black. You just went home, man.
I
Come on,
think that he could
keep
get
up.
me in to see Oprah
Nobody wants to see
or
Oprah.
even the Queen of England.
Oprah is such a has been alien that she's been recalled to whatever planet she lives on, Fat World or something. Who knows for sure?
What
It's
about Jim Morrison, man? That's a mysterious disappearance. You
I don't
think
want
that
to
he
see no
went back?
dead people, man. If I wanted to see dead people, I'd go ghost hunting. It's really truly
Jim Morrison's dead.
yeah, going
Come on, look at the
buried,
circumstances of his death. That's
gone
weird.
and buried and cremated in the whole 9 yards. And now he's living on another
I don't
plane
know.
of
I have to see it
existence.
to believe it, man.
Now he's living on a different plane of existence. Maybe who knows? Clara. Oh hey Josh, didn't see you. And hey Mark, what's up? They Clara. You know the planet's been visiting for a long time because there's things outside of the scope of us. And what I mean by that is there's the Pravda map, which is the map dates back about a million, about I don't know. They estimate that it was somewhere between 55 and 100 million years ago is when the map was created. So this is an aerial resource map made in the dinosaur era by someone who could see from above a valley. So somebody from above created a map on a big rock, on a flat stone, to show all the resources in the valley, and then it was posted there. Kind of reminds me of the Stargate original cover stone. It's kind of weird, but it's there, and it still exists today. People don't like to talk about it. The Pravda magazine, which is a Russian magazine, talks about it a lot, but I think they're the ones that still have the map actually. But this thing does exist, and there's no way to get around it. It shows life on this planet long before. Remember, dinosaurs died 55 million years ago. We've only been on the planet for 2 million. That's 53 million years between us and the dinosaurs, and there was nothing. No intelligent life whatsoever. Yeah, you can believe that. There was
Yeah,
500 million
I
years
don't
existence
believe it,
before
man.
that. There was no. So
I don't
our
believe
problem
dinosaurs
is
died that
that,
long ago.
well, I don't think I think a lot of dinosaurs. I don't think they all died. There's probably still a few hanging around even today. Um, it just didn't make
As a
any
matter of
sense.
fact, the whole timeline doesn't make sense.
Well, no, it probably doesn't.
The whole
Uh,
timeline doesn't make sense, man.
because more than likely the extinction of the dinosaur was a terraforming event. That's probably what it was. They were probably terraforming it for a new type of life to be on the planet, and that's exactly what happened. There's a whole new type of life here now. If you go back just 60 million years ago, you find dinosaurs roaming the planet. You go back 100, well, about 250 million years ago, you find a whole new set of life. You go back 250 million years after, you find a whole new one before that. It seems like about every 200, 250 million years, there's a major
Oh my
extinction,
God! Answer the phone.
a major
Is
extinction
that
on the
Stephanie calling?
planet. No, that's a
She's
customer of
calling
mine.
from beyond.
I'll call him back in a little while. But it's one of those things that we have to deal with.
That's like an
We see
old
it.
man ring. Like you
That's
can
a
hear
that's a
that
that's a
outside.
ring. And you know what's funny about that ring is everybody in their mama's got that damn ring because it's a real. Everybody's got it.
It
It's like
scared the hell out of me, man. I got
you'll
headphones
be
on.
like in a grocery store or Lowe's or Home Depot, something. Look at your go off, and you think it's your phone, it's somebody else's phone. Um, I'll let him
I'm
know that.
stealth, man. I don't do that stuff. I'm very stealthy.
Well, usually I have it off. I'll let him know what I'm doing.
So I'll tell my ghost, my not my ghost, my UFO story. No ghosts, it's UFO.
Extraterrestrial. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Maybe you never know, man. I'll never kiss and tell.
Don't tell anybody.
So like, at 17 years old, I'm hanging out with my friend Andy, and we're at a bar in Rockville Center, Long Island, called the New Village Inn, right across the street from the Old Village Inn. And at that time, young people hung out in bars, and whatever. I'm not actually a drinker, but everybody was hanging out there, shooting darts and all that. It was a place to be. So Andy and I are there late. At this point, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm telling him how cool Montauk Point is. And then when the sun comes up, just the illumination of the sky, the fishing boats going out, like all the really cool sights you see. So he's drinking. I'm not drinking. And he's like, well, let's go. I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to go all the way out there. It's like a 2.5 hour ride or something like that. And then plus the middle of the night, you know what I'm saying? Like cops on Long Island really look at you as you're driving through. So then he's like, oh, I just bought an old police car and it's outside. He's like, we'll break it in and go. I'm like, oh, all right. And he tells me to drive. So I get a driver's seat where I'm cruising this old police car with him, cruising out there. We get
Yeah, I think you
there
got the
and
Blues Brothers, man.
basically we get there and it wasn't like even close to being daylight yet. It actually made some good time getting there. And then there was like this old Coke machine there, so bought some sodas. We actually sat there talking for a minute, and then we're both like, okay, let's just get out of here, man. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't worth hanging around for another hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it was. So we're at Montauk and we're at the point we're leaving at this point, and then I just kind of get around. If you know Montauk Point, or if you look at the map of it, I'm just getting around the curve of this big satellite dish that they have there, and all this junk in the middle. I'm just around getting that curve, and I get down the road, maybe a quarter mile, a half mile, something like that, and then I get pulled over, and I didn't even see any cops, man. I got pulled over, and then a whole bunch of other cars showed up. These government cars that said G12 on the license plates, and these dudes get out, and then they drag us out, and then his cops are like yelling at us, like, what were you doing at the base? I'm like, what base? He's like, the Air Force base. What were you doing? We know you were at the base, and all like saying all this stuff about the Air Force base. And I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. I was ignorant at that time of what the history was of Montauk Point. So before that happened, this is the important part. As we're driving, like all these colorful lights were above the car, like it kind of illuminated the car. You know what I mean? And really, like really powerful, colorful lights I had not seen before. And I hung out with stage lighting people, lighting designers. We did lighting for bands, so I've seen all of that, all the modern, everything I can say. This light was different than that. It was even soft, I want to say, but it was like wow. So I said to Andy, I'm like, man, did you see that? And he's like, oh, it's probably a helicopter like messing with us, like shining a light on us. I'm like, I don't hear a helicopter. And I looked up, didn't see really anything after that. So whatever it was there and then gone. Then we drive another quarter mile and boom. That's when those cops pulled us over. And then they're like yelling at us, what'd you see at the base? What they kept saying, what did we see at the base? So anyway, those cops leave, the government dudes leave, and then it leaves me with an East Hampton police officer who wrote us 6 tickets because Andy never told me he never registered the car, insured the car, or nothing
Oh
like that.
shit!
And used
Definitely the Blues Brothers, baby.
and used the plates off his last car to put on there. So there's all
Oh,
kinds of crimes, and since I was the one driving, I'm the one who got the tickets. So then we leave. On the rest of the way back, I'm talking to him, and he's like, I'm scared. That was really weird. He's like, why did they say that stuff and do that stuff? I'm like, I don't know. I'm used to being harassed by cops, so to me it was kind of normal. You know what I mean? Just not that type of situation. But damn. Anyway, 2 years later, I'm at a club on Long Island called Sundance, a place I used to hang out all the time. And I knew the owner, I chilled out. That was like my hangout. And I met these two girls. We all start hanging out. And then the girls take us to, you ever hear of a place called Pilgrim State? It's a mental institution on Long Island,
shit.
and there's a closed off section. So these girls like kind of got me into ghost hunting in a weird way because they tell me about spirits in there, and you can see apparitions and whatever. So like we ended up breaking in, going to that place. I mean, getting in, going into going into that place. And keep in mind, this is a million years ago for me. And so then I'll hang out with this girl. I tell her, we're swapping weird paranormal stories. I tell her that story about Montauk. And she's like, no way. She's like, do you know about the Montauk boys? I'm like, no. So then a couple days later, I go hang out with her again, and she gives me this book called The Montauk Boys, which talks about experiments at Montauk Point where they were taking aliens and mixing them with people and doing all this extraordinary stuff, right? And how the guy who wrote the book was a colonel who was part of the operation, and then he came out afterwards and did all that. But really interesting story, right? So then I'm like, okay. Then another few years later, I'm at 7-Eleven with my friend Bobby, who worked there at night. So we used to hang out there all night long. You kind of play video games and drink coffee. And then so this janitor kept coming in. He would always stop in, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, whatever, and say, he worked at Brookhaven Labs, and there's some weird stuff going on, but he's not allowed to say, right? This occasion he came in, he got fired, and then he was like pissed, and he was saying all kinds of stuff about how Brookhaven Labs has an underground tram that runs to that Montauk Point, and the Montauk Point actually has 30 floors underground. So the top floors where those cops said, "What are you doing at the base?" There is a base there at the point, and it's all inactive. And they poured a concrete sarcophagus on it. You can't access the lower floors, not in any way. So just like the guy was saying, you got to see what's going on in there, all kinds. Because this guy was the head custodian. He sees it all, right? The head custodian sees it all, and he was mad. So that's my story. Not much to sink your teeth in, but a lot of weird
There's
stuff.
a lot of weird shit there. A
But you
lot
know
of
what I
weird,
like
weird
about it? It
stuff
was
in there.
it was a continuation. Like a couple years later, I learned a little bit more, and then a few years later, you start putting things together. You're like, wow, man, there's some deep stuff. But
Oh
yeah, they
wait,
do they do
what
stuff that
time
we
is
don't
it?
we don't
Okay.
want to know what the hell they do. You
Yeah,
know what I
lots
mean?
of, well, Montauk's got there's a lot of weird shit happens in Montauk. You got Montauk, a lot of shit. What is the Hudson Valley's another lot of weird shit hanging up in there.
What about the underwater missile bases along
You
the
got you
coast?
got you got a whole that whole upper part of New York's got all kind of crap goes in. For some reason, they don't really like New York City all that much. I mean, there are UFO sites. They don't get me wrong, probably more than there is anywhere else. But you don't really nobody. Let me put it this way: it's not that ET doesn't visit New York City a lot. They do, but the people there don't like to talk about it. Now you get outside of the city, more people want to talk about it.
Too much violence, man. No ET wants to hang out in violent New York City.
They
Do you
don't
see
care
what's
where you
going
are.
on there these days?
New
And the
York
air
sucks right
traffic,
now.
forget about it, man.
New York sucks right now, but it's going to be a great city again. You know why it's going to be a great city again? Because for the same reason, California's going to be a great again. At the rate they're bleeding liberals that are all
Nah,
going to Austin.
if I
Yeah,
was
because
ET, I would be in Prague. I'd go to Prague. I'd open up a champagne bar. You know what I mean?
champagne bar. I think ET wants to see New York red again. And you know what, guys? Last election, Trump got 46% in New York.
You
That's
mean red,
damn.
like the Canadian
Yeah,
leaf in
that
their
makes it
flag?
purple. Yeah, you know how them Canadians.
That kind of red Canadian?
We know the truth about them Canadians. We know they're really Chinese infiltrators, but we
It used
still
to be
love
the
them
place to go for
anyway.
freedom, man. Not anymore.
Yeah, I know they got to worry about their freedoms up there these days.
Well, they want to
But
come here
we'll
now.
get we'll get into that Wednesday too. They ain't the only ones that want to come here. Everybody and their mom wants to come here right now. It's a kind of strange place to be right now.
Yeah, no one's actually
Uh,
trying to get out of the U.S., are they?
no, not really.
People want to come
Oh,
in.
wait. That's what I wanted to tell you. Okay, now this we don't usually do this in a show like this, so we're going to go back to talking about UFOs in just a minute. But
I was just talking about you.
I know, but I had the show. Yeah, you were. You're doing a good job too. But I got to tell you about this. So you're gonna love this shit. So another bad news poll for Democrats. I'm saving this for Friday. We're going to talk a little bit about it tonight. So security matters. 56% prefer Republicans. 39% prefer Democrats. That sucks. For prosperity, 52% prefer Republicans. 40% prefer Democrats. They're done, man. These kind of numbers hold. They not only they may actually see a supermajority enough to impeach the you know who,
I think people feel
Donald Trump.
very the people who believed in Biden and the whole bit, all those shenanigans feel very let down. I
Well,
mean,
they do. They do.
Trump was he's very unlikable for a lot of people. That's a problem. But the fact that how the system ran very well
Yeah,
and
ran like a well-oiled machine, ran like a business, and
in
that's
January of 2020, before COVID hit, 93% of America responded saying they feel comfortable and happy in their lives.
well. You remember Trump got his ass in trouble with got Clinton in trouble because Bill said no, he could probably do a good job. He runs a tight company, you know. He said so. Most people don't realize, but Trump's owned over 100 companies. Only four of them he had to file bankruptcy, and that's any way you look at that. 96%, he's it's pretty good any way you look at it. It's so and Bill said no because Bill said it. In order for this country to run correctly, the reason he had success and the reason that Ronald had success is they both ran the company like a corporation, not like the way the politicians run it. So and they ran better. It works good, but you gotta have politicians that want to work with the scheme. And
Well,
I don't know
now
what happened. I really don't know what happened, but somewhere along the line we became polarized. It was before 9/11, but I don't know what happened or why it happened. It's the media is why, but we became polarized and
mm,
we get to be a close country again, like 9/11 caused us to get to be friendly with everybody
it
again.
was
And
Obama because that whole
it was
campaign about hating America and how evil, America is for the things we've done and all this other stuff. You can always take any society and say you've done terrible things, but
so
it's about moving into the right direction
I meant to
instead.
tell you about that too. So the UN, thinking it's going to be a smart ass,
Mhm.
does a poll. What's your favorite? What would you be your favorite country to live in? America won by 68%. So the UN thought it was going to be somebody else, like France or Germany or some other damn country we ain't never heard of, like Austria. Austria wins a lot of shit for some reason or another because it's like the size of a pimple. Now I'm not hating Austrians. You have a beautiful country. I mean, The Sound of Music was filmed there. I'm not hating on you. You got a beautiful country,
The
but I mean, let's
hills
be
are
honest.
alive with
You
the
the size of a
sounds of
thumbtack. I mean,
bullshit.
I'm just, I don't want to hate on them. They got a beautiful country, but I mean, it's not really a big country. It's not. How can I say
I
this
like
politely?
Bavarian cream.
It doesn't shape the well-being of
I
the
like
world. There you
chocolate.
go. There we go. I got that out without getting into too much trouble.
Chocolate.
But I mean, you're looking at this poll. It's pathetic. And so it's yeah, Cliff. What does this have to do with UFOs? Well, one, do you
That
really think?
those aliens are illegal aliens and they have
There's
rights
a lot of
here.
them
Number
too.
one, and they want to
So,
be here too, obviously,
so,
since
but really,
there's,
do you think?
most UFO sightings are in the U.S.
Well, I got to ask this question at a conference, and because I've said this before, I only think Republicans have been told about ET. Kennedy might have known, but I'm 50-50 on that. But since then, only Republicans have known, and it's not that hard to figure out. Ronald Reagan was a very iffy, skiffy kind of guy. He was a B actor who became a good governor for California. He did the state a lot of good. It's why I don't understand why the state hates Republicans so bad because he did a good job for Cali and he's still well liked in Cali. But whatever. But he came in, did a good job running the country, ran up to debt a little bit, but did a good job running the country. And then Crazy Clinton came in, and so before we get to Clinton, let's go back to Reagan. So Reagan did a couple of things that makes you kind of weird about him. He instituted Pine Gap, the Joint British Defense of Outer Space. Okay, well, as far as our government's concerned, ET doesn't exist. So who the hell are we defending ourselves from?
Exactly, each
So
other.
anyway, so we build this, and then wait, it lasts for like 10 years, and all of a sudden they say we close it. And then from a friend of mine who was doing just mass searches for bill of ladings and found some invoices from 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, which proved it was still in existence because they were still getting materials and supplies. So they were busted. And then they came back out and said, yes, we're doing this. But they never say why. They have a bigger dish array there we have in the United States. Nobody knows what it's for. And then he instituted, so he did Pine Cap. Then he turns around and what does he do? He does the heart facility. So the heart facility is using these beams to punch big holes in the ionosphere and send signals into deep space. Technically, these are big ass lasers, are what these are, but who knows for sure? Then he decides that we need Star Wars. So he builds these laser systems that we all thought were designed to shoot down missiles. Yeah, maybe groves of missiles. These things were huge. These things were not designed to shoot down. These things were like for sweeping cities off the planet or something. I don't know what the hell these things were designed for. And we started using them to shoot disc into space, which are real weird use. And then he got on TV on not one occasion, but 7 occasions, and said what would happen if our planet was invaded from outer space. We would immediately become one world, which he's right about. But he was planning for it. He was planning for this. He built 3 systems for the defense of our planet against someone inbound, like he knew someone was coming. So then we had George Bush. Now, George Bush was vice president for 8 years, but he was also head of the CIA before
No,
that.
he's
Yeah, he was vice
but
president.
yeah, but
Yeah,
I'm saying like, but Bush was just riding Reagan's coattails. He didn't
no,
know.
no, 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 no. Actually, it was the other way around. Um, see, Bush was the head of the CIA. Bush could have done anything he wanted. He was head of the CIA. He had the goods on everybody.
He was one of the directors. He wasn't like
Yeah.
the head,
Yeah, he was the head. He
but
was the head. And before anybody asked me, he was only the head for 1 year. So he was in the CIA for 4 or 5. He was only the head for 1 year, and that was a year before he was nominated to run for VP,
But if we're
which I
going to mention
found.
Bush, let's go back and talk about Prescott Bush and how their business was taken away for giving aid and comfort to the Nazis, and also
Well, no,
that
but that's not
the
what this is
dude that they
about.
believe killed Kennedy worked for Prescott Bush.
Well,
There's a
I've
whole
heard
bunch
so
of
many
stuff.
different ways about the way Kennedy was killed. I've given
I'm
up on
saying
Kennedy.
that there's Bush roots, and this is the
There's
same
Bush roots and
family.
everything. They say
This is the
Bush's
same family of
they say
George Bush
Bush's
and
roots go
George.
all the way back to the Queen and King. So I mean, there's no telling where they go. But it doesn't really matter because he knew all about ET. He probably told Reagan all about ET, and then he served. So he was head of the CIA, 8 years vice president, 4 years of president. Anybody knew ET existed? He did, and I guarantee you, Darth Cheney did. I had no doubt that Darth Cheney did. I have no doubt that's the reason we were back in the Middle East because they were looking for
Well, then
something.
Bubba Clinton got in there after that.
But Clinton didn't know. Clinton tried to find out. Clinton tried blackmailing people. Clinton got hold of the Bilderbergs. Clinton got hold of that, not the Bilderbergs. The what was the one he let his fingers grow real nails? Oh, what the hell is his name? One of the rich people back in the day. But anyway, he got hold of their family. He tried every kind of way to find out if ET existed. And get this, he was told by the head of the Pentagon that did not have the clearance to know what was at Area 51. That was on record, by the way. He was told he did not have a high enough clearance. as president of the free world to know what the hell was at Area 51. First thing I would have said is, "You son of a bitch, you better have me there in the morning along with everybody I want to bring with me." I said, "I don't know who the hell you talking to, but I'm president. You just some lonely general." But Clinton backed down. And Baby Bush found out later on. Daddy probably told Baby Bush. Obama had no clue whatsoever. I doubt Kennedy knew. Kennedy wanted to know, but I don't think he knew any. You'd probably have to go all the way back to, I think, Lyndon Johnson, or no, what's the one who supposedly met E.T. in Washington State? He went to go to the dentist because he got an abscess, and everybody said he went to meet E.T. I forgot which one it was. It was either Teddy, or it was one of the ones back in the 40s or 50s, but so really, truly, as far as we know, only the Republicans have been told about ET, and not all of them have been. Why I don't know, but so I got a question for everybody listening tonight. And you can go look at this. You don't have to take me from a word for it. So you're going to see the president of every president that served for the last 50 years. He goes into this meeting. When he comes out of the meeting, his hair is actually white when they come out. Even Obama used to dye his hair. In case you didn't know that, ladies and gentlemen. You'll find several occasions where Obama's hair was gray and then all of a sudden it was dark again. So he used to have it dyed. But on this meeting, he walked out of this meeting just like George Bush did, just like Reagan did, just like everybody had with white hair. I don't know what the hell they were telling him, but it was something that scared the crap out of the president of the United States. So you figure out what it was. I mean, I know there's a lot of hairy, scary stuff that goes on running the country and the world. Somebody said, well, maybe it's because China was bigger. I said, not back in Clinton and Reagan's day. It surely wasn't that. It had to be something else. It wasn't Russia. Russia was all but collapsed. So America was pretty much standing on the world's head by itself. So what scared us so bad? What was it that made us our president's leaders turn white-headed? I remember Davy Bush saying one time, he said, some of the things I have learned from the presidential book since I have been president makes it really hard for me to sleep. And he said, and then he was asked again after he got out of office, after a second term when he got out, if he could sleep any better. And he actually looked at the lady in the face and said, no, I can't. So I don't know what these guys are being told, but it is something that really, really brings them down and makes them have to really think about what's going on. Or maybe that's one of the reasons some of the presidents are so foolish when they get in office, because maybe they know whatever we're doing now doesn't really make a difference. I don't know. I got to say, it worries me though, because presidents before didn't seem to come out gray headed. So it just seems to be something since the World War II. Y'all figure it out. I don't know. He might have, Josh. And I would think some of the earlier presidents, it depends when we found out. Most people think we found out about ET around World War after or during World War II, actually. Some of the reason why there was such a big push to get the German scientists is there had been a rumor for a long time that Germany in World War One or prior to World War One had made contact with a human-looking type alien race that stayed in contact with them for a regular basis. And if you've ever read Mein Kampf by Hitler, he talks about these fair-haired, blue-eyed, angel-like beings that used to come visit him, which is a real close description to what alien people call these human-looking aliens. Very beautiful, very stunning, which makes me worried because a lot of times those turn out to be reptilians. So it's the whole thing is very weird. But there's a progression. You can follow the progression all the way back to the Roman times. There's been a progression of something moving through our planet, through ourselves. And then, Mike was making a good point earlier. If you do, humans' biological clock is technically set to a 24 and a quarter hour day, all right, to 24 plus hours. So everybody's like, well, yeah, we have a 24-hour day, but that's not true. We have a 23 and three-quarter hour day. So why isn't our biological clock set to that? It's
What
actually
about
set Martian time. That's
what
Martian
about
time.
what about Admiral Byrd, right?
You
And
say,
the
well, that
whole
should happen to him too.
Operation High Jump, that whole mission down there, the discs that came out and destroyed his ships, all that. I mean, there's so much to that, and they try to ignore it, say it's a hoax. Oh, it's a hoax.
Well, of course, I got to say the hoax. There's nothing else they can say. Y'all guys, thanks for all these political links. I promise you, we will use them coming this Friday. Not tonight. That's just not what we're really doing tonight. But
Much of the information about high jump came from Chile and Argentina, when because they took a lot of the wounded, they shipped them off there, and they were telling the stories. The ones who survived of what came out and what their ships just got destroyed and like all these, and so it was more than one media publication down there. Just makes you think, man.
Yeah, it does make you kind of wonder what the hell's going on.
Look at the
Yeah, man.
Pirius Reese maps. Is there
Yeah.
really any
See,
reason?
there's all of that. There's lots of stuff. If you go throughout our past for the last, well, so written past is 6,000 years. It's probably longer than that because we know we found those cities off the coast of India, which date back around 12,500 BC. So, so the thing about that is we know the modern day believes the Sumerian it was the first written language, but then they found the Zero Dynasty in Egypt, which may be the first written language. But since then, they've also found another language that seems to even predate those. But the point being is we've had at least 6,000 years of written language. So we've had mighty cultures rise and fall, and right, the Chinese have gotten shit written all over the place. They've documented the last 5,000 years pretty good. The Indians have also documented the last 5,000 years pretty good because they've been around. They've been a consistent nation for that long. They've been hanging around in their area, just documenting things as they go, as their society grows and expands. But in China and India's case, they both peaked at a fairly, I guess, a young age in the grand scheme of the universe. And
What
maybe there'll
about
be
the
some.
Hopi Indians in 35,000 years ago and the Ant people? And at that point, humans were using chicken bones as tools.
But what's it they found? They found something just recently that puts us here that predates the Ice Age. They found, I think it was a human skull or human. They found something just recently, but it predates the Ice Age, which
A
means
couple
humans
million years.
they weren't supposed to be here. We weren't supposed to be anybody here. So that would also maybe explain why the southern part, the South America and Central America, is 98% O. No scientists today can figure that out. They just don't understand it. It makes no sense whatsoever. So it would make some sense if it was the Toltecs and Incans and Mayans and it was just their families breeding forward, right? And they were all, oh, okay, that would make sense. But we know for a fact that the Spanish went down in and interbred with everybody
But now
for
you think of
500 years.
the Ice Age. It's a very strong term for not very much. I mean, we're talking about temperature increasing about 5 degrees, or decreasing, I should say, 5 degrees overall for all those years. So it wasn't like the Earth turned into a ball of ice,
But
and there was definitely your hot zones and tropical zones still.
yeah, but what it did is it drew up a lot of the water. So that's why, these cities we've been
Now it's
finding.
melting.
Yeah, well, yeah, now it's melting and it's going to cover these cities. Well, but at one point, it was high enough up that these cities could live, coastal cities could exist.
So what city's
Eventually, it kept
underwater
melting.
right now from climate change?
Well, from recent climate change, all of New Orleans and the metro area would be underwater. If it wouldn't be for levees, we'd be 7 foot underwater. Actually, it used to be two
Yeah,
foot.
but
Now
you
it'd be
guys are
7 foot.
underwater to begin with.
Well, no, we were only 1 foot underwater. Now it'd be more like 5 foot underwater. But the point, it's not even that. We know somewhere in the past that the ice had drawn up all this water and that there was much more land mass on the planet than there is today. And there were many, many more cities and civilizations. We're finding it out every day. We're finding more things sunken, like the Bimini Road, the one off the coast of Japan, the one off the coast of China. We're finding cities that aren't supposed to be there. We weren't supposed to be that intelligent. Those two cities they found off the coast of India that are 12,000 years old, those cities were 250,000 people each. That's an estimate. They had aquifers. These were advanced. They were at least advanced than Romans, if not more. 6,000 years before the Romans even
So
existed.
how do you know that there weren't advanced civilizations here a million years ago that got
There might have been.
wiped out, and then another advance coming on a half a million years later? I mean,
As
you know,
far as we know, there was a really advanced civilization that lived here 60 million years ago. They saw the Earth going to an end, and they left.
there are ancient artifacts that
They are
that people
opals,
have gathered and they can't explain
out
things
of place
things that are
artifacts.
unbelievable, but tools and metal things that are really old that they can't explain.
Oh, they found a battery and a piece of quartz that's almost 3 million years old. They have no idea how it got there. They're like, where the hell did this come from? They found stuff much older than that, stuff that predates our civilization altogether, predates even some of the other civilizations, even as goes back as far as the middle of the dinosaur era. So there's stuff that suggests that there may have been more advanced, and we don't know what happened to Atlantis. See, I would say Atlantis was just a story, but it was written by too many cultures. And there weren't cultures that were connected with each other at the time. They were connected later on, but the stories were wrote before they were connected, which suggests that their own, fishermen and their own people were finding it on their own, or either that or the Atlanteans were, coming to their places to live. And it makes sense because there's a lot of ties between the Egyptian civilizations and the Toltecs, which would have been if there was a city in Atlantis in the middle, that's where they would have ended up. If they
But
had to leave in a hurry, some would have went to Egypt, some would have went
Atlantis
there.
was the beginning of mankind. If you read all these things that are written about them, and it sounds like it was a ship. It sounded like they were calling them the fallen angels. They had so many words for them, but it
Yeah,
sounded
probably
like it
more
was
than
a
that.
big ship. And then they went out to all the corners of the world, and they kind of laid path of things and shepherded things along, and then taught people how to do stuff, and then they took off.
Well, some people think they took off. Some people think the damn thing it was land. It had landed on a caldera and got blown up.
What Admiral Byrd, when Admiral Byrd went back to Washington D.C. and calling that the person that he talked to in the center of the Earth, apparently, which is the opening in the South Pole, that it was the master, and the master is concerned, and he had all these things like, and so they buried all that shit. They told him not to say anything, and then he said, "Well, I'm a good soldier. I'm going to abide by that," and that was that.
Well, there's lots of that's what Josh just put in there as a gold mine at 7,000 years old. There's lots of stuff on the planet that predates the known civilizations, um, and it suggests that we're older than we look.
Dude, these are
Uh,
places we can't reach. You know what I mean? Look at that ship. Did a whole story, that Balkan anomaly, right? Sitting there at the bottom. I mean, they can't get anything near it. It cuts out electrically. It doesn't look like a rock face. Doesn't look like anything like that. Looks like a ship. Is what it looks like. The
well, they
Millennium
found one.
Falcon.
They found one in one of the lakes up there. The Russians originally found it with a submarine, and then I think the Swedish or the Norwegians, one of them went up there to look at it, and it looked like a disc sitting on the bottom of the water.
Yeah.
And then one day they came back, and there was a platform there, but no disc. It was gone. But it left this weird ass pattern in the dirt. But they had pictures of it before and after. So somebody either came and removed it or it removed itself. But it looked like it had been there for eons.
They got a picture of one on Google Earth in South Pole. It looks like it just kind of skidded into the ice where it sits. It's like halfway in the ice and halfway not in the ice. It's a dark disc. So I mean, like, there's a lot to be found, but these things we still can't reach because we don't have the ability to go down way down into the ocean. You know,
We've got a lot to learn too, because not all of these races want to be friendly with us. Um,
no, look at the way we treat the chickens, man. I wouldn't trust humans for anything, and or alien species either.
well, maybe one race is like the Cookie Monster, man. He just wants chocolate chips. Would be good with him.
I can make cookies all day long.
So I'm saying, buddy, we'd be
Then
throwing
we can
some
make a
big old
deal.
mass of chocolate chicks.
I'll make you a
It's
dozen cookies. You give me your ship.
Janice, ETs. It's weird. I mean, we talk to the abductees. It's one thing. My problem with all of this is it's always the same thing for me. I think actions speak louder than words. So
Uh oh.
my new age people tell me all the time they're here to save us, enlighten us, and help us. Okay. The rest of them seem to either want to war with us, kill us, or eat us. Okay. So we got these two explanations. All right. For my new age friends, have you looked at the planet lately? Have you seen who's in charge of our country? Have you seen who's in charge of China and Russia? Have you looked at the world? Does this world look enlightened? Not even a little bit. And I don't. Oh, well, some people bullshit. Some people doesn't matter. If there's 10 of you, even 10,000, even a million that are enlightened, there's still 7 billion that are not. So that's not working. ET's not enlightened, and if they are, they're doing a piss poor job. And if they're here to eat us, they're doing a piss poor job at that too. Maybe I would think we'd be too much high, especially Mike and I
I
would
don't
be
know. They're
way
kind
too
of
high
skinny, man.
cholesterol.
I don't think they eat humans.
Well, I don't think they eat us anyway because you and I are way too high in cholesterol, man.
Exactly.
We'd be like eating a ribeye,
You
man.
gotta
We'd be like,
watch
that
that
shit will kill us.
cholesterol level.
But no, I'm sure they're not interested in eating humans for the most part. I mean, maybe the reptilians every once in a while. See somebody that looks like a filet mignon. No, I'm just teasing people, but in the end, we got we're being visited. We've got enough exciting sightings,
Well,
enough
you know
weird
what's
stuff in the
interesting?
past.
They're not hiding from us. And when it comes to the Nimitz and all that situation going on with these aircraft carriers and these, unidentified, whatever they call them now, you know what I mean? UFOs, phenomenon. it it's like a taunting. It's like they're there, we can see you and you can see us. As soon as you reveal yourself, then the opposite can learn about you. They can study that, and I think this is the beginning of that. I think this is them showing themselves more often, and also to different sources. So I believe that also a lot of people are in tune. You know,
A
I've
lot of
talked
people
many
are.
times on my show about the pineal gland, and just kind of that connectivity, the telepathic thought. You think that we're not all connected? Lao Tzu used to say that everything in the universe is connected. There's no difference between anything. It's all
Just
part of the same
some
thing.
of us are better connected to others. That's all it is.
Yeah, good or bad, it is what it is, right?
China fantasy is dying a public death.
Humans
Thank God
tend to
this
do
isn't
bad
real.
things because they have this greed to exceed. And people's beat all your average person is to have the big house with all the money and all the stuff and power. They love power. The one who's willing not to be powerful and not to have all those things, have enough to live and survive and be happy with what you have, but not screw people over or not cut throats to get there. Humans have a long way to go. Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years from what I see.
Yeah, we got a lot to learn. That's for sure.
Look
It's
at the way we treat organizations that treat children poorly. Look at the Catholic Church and all what's going on in there. I mean, as a human species, there's a lot to atone for. You know,
we do well. We do and we don't. So, and what I mean by that is, yes, there's a handful of people who need to atone for what's been done. Most of the human race is innocent for the most part. They're not out there mass killing. I don't know how God or ET, visualizes things like abortion and stuff like that. I would think that they would not think it was a good idea, but regardless, I don't know if they're judging us by that or not. They're probably judging us by two things. One, the fact is we kill each
my
other.
question for you, Joe, is that what would they get out of it? What would ET get out of a relationship with human beings?
I think you get a lot out of
I know
relationship.
what we would get out of it. I think that it would change all of humanity forever.
Well, there's a lot of things change in humanity for you. So almost everyone who's gone into space and have seen the planet from space has come back and done something profound, or has tried to do something profound, or has changed your life in profound ways. So when you see the planet from space, you realize that yes, we're not individuals. We're one big ass planet. People, and I've said this a million times. When you look at Earth, think of us as a spaceship. We're one big spaceship. We're all living on the same spaceship, being hurled through space and time, all together as one group. We're not different groups. We have the same DNA codes. We look a lot alike. We got some similar differences, but for the most part, we are just humans. If we don't start figuring it out, well, y'all gonna have to be living with Michael. Because I'm going to live in the good place where you bad humans are not allowed to live. But getting back to the point, there are a lot of people on this planet that will have to pay. And if aliens looked at it that way, I would imagine that Joe Biden would actually be in the Barbie right now. But for some reason, they're not that interested in directly. I guess from their point of view, Mike, it's like this: if we survive and become a great species and contribute to the universe, great. If we die and kill ourselves, oh, they get a new planet to inhabit now. It's for them, it's a win-win. It's not a lose-lose. People say all the time, "Well, they're going to lose." No, it's a win-win for the aliens.
It's
And
it's more about the cosmic equation, you
it
know.
is more about the quasi equation and how do we fit into that? And
Well, more the communication gaps and the levels of society compared us to them, a species anyway. You know what I mean? Like maybe you comparing yourself to a worm. You can observe it. What do you get out of interacting with it? What can you teach it? What can it learn from you? What can you learn from it? That's usually what people's interactions are in the world. Even when you have friends, there's something about them that stimulates you while you want to be their friend. Do you know what I mean?
well, I'm scared now. I know the world is truly coming to an end now. George Clooney compares Biden's administration to a battered child. Isn't he like the biggest liberal ever to live?
Yep.
I mean, how I know you he was all, but you know what with Obama. So, and I'm not even sure he wasn't doing that.
George
Oh my
Clooney, you know
God.
what? He's kind of sat it out for a while. He got those death threats because his wife is like this lawyer who goes after terrorists. Man, like she's fighting for the rights of the people that they affect. So he got death threats, and then he lives mainly in New York City, I guess. So this guy is like boogieing around, hiding. He's like living his own movie life. You know what I mean? With these death threats, if they're real. Maybe he is. Maybe he went nuts and he is living his movie life. But then he was political for a minute with Trump. Then it fizzled out. And I think that if someone asked him, he would say something, but he didn't go out of his way to try to stomp on Trump. But Trump did himself in with all that kind of behavior, man. He should have just not have been himself.
Yeah, he's I don't know. It's
He was very divisive with
Trump.
people,
Trump
and
should have been a little bit more classy about the way he
he
did things,
he could
but
have
he can't.
unified people, man. He
He
didn't.
could have, but he can't. But it's going to be hard on the liberals now because I've been looking at the independent polls. They say they'll vote for Trump if he runs again.
Because they feel betrayed, and I don't know why. Are they really that daft that they weren't paying attention to the political games that were
No,
being
they
played?
weren't. They were listening to the media and all the bullshit about Trump, and then after Trump got it out, they all found out that it was bullshit, and everything that Trump said would happen exactly happened. Everything fell apart, and they just, I mean, this is how people forget. The state of the country right now is how Obama gave it to Trump. Trump straightened out the country, and in no time, within a year, and then it just got better and better and better. Biden took all of what 7 months to destroy it. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's not. Things
y'all
aren't
can
doing
blame it
well.
on COVID, but even
You
under
want to see
COVID,
something
Trump
bad?
was maintaining an economy.
Take a gander at New York City and what's going on there.
I feel for New Yorkers, man. I got so many friends in New York. I just feel for them now. It's a good thing Stephanie passed because she might have took Blasio out on her own.
I don't know if it's a good thing.
She'd have took him out. I know how she was. So she was, whew, man. Oh, this kid again, please, people. No one cares what this kid thinks. This Gretchen, whatever her name is.
Who?
This stupid Swedish Norwegian kid, whatever the hell she is, the
Oh,
one
that poor kid.
the one that they've
She's
used
not a
as
kid
a
anymore. Isn't she like 20?
I don't know. She's scary to me, man. She's like a cult in herself.
She has that bug eye. I think she has a problem though, like a medical problem. I'm
Yeah,
not
she
gonna make
got
fun
some
of her.
kind of problem. Well,
She's part of the whole problem. She's being used by the system. She's just being used as this figurehead for something they're trying to push. They're not accomplishing any goals. They're not doing anything. And she wants to be famous. That's her whole deal. Look at look at the photographs that are taken of her and understand that these photographs were staged and crafted. They weren't naturally occurring, and this girl posed for the camera to push this agenda. It's a false
it,
agenda, though.
it is. Oh man. So yeah, if you're living in California, you're now living in a communist state. They tell you got to have cards to do this, cards to do that.
Hey, at least you can poop in the street
Now
legally.
you get only in San Francisco. You got to have neutral gender toys in your toy selection. You
I don't know
know,
what's happening to
well,
California.
I'm
California,
confused anyway. Wasn't GI Joe neutral gender? I mean, he didn't have no
it's
junk
also
down
on
there.
fire.
Yeah, it's a piece of crap state, is what it is,
California's
man.
got so many problems, man.
And the bad part is it's not the whole state's not a bad state. Just sections of it is.
So where's the
Yeah,
UFOs in California, man? How
all
come they're
over
not
the
hanging
damn
out there?
place. They all over the place. But anyway, we got to get out of here because coming up next is the Horse Food Chronicles coming up with Julia and Philip Syracuse. They'll be on in just a second.
Uh-oh.
So they're coming on. Don't give them no trouble. They will turn you into demon people. And
Yeah, don't
I
give
heard,
me any trouble.
I heard they had a spell for Michael. So I don't know what it is, but I
Joe, are
guess
you
we'll
saying
find
that
out.
they're Satanists?
I don't say nothing of the kind. I like the two
I
of them. I
would
think
never
they're
call
nice
someone
people.
a Satanist.
I think they're nice people. So don't try to blame it on me,
You
you
think they're not nice
Satanists.
people?
I
You
think they
you
are
told me
nice
you told me
people.
they were from Staten Island, though.
Well, they are from Staten Island. That is a little scary, but
Well, that's got to give you a tip off.
it is a little scary. They're just That just means when you back in the corner, they'll come out fighting. That's all.
Staten
It's
Island's so bad is that New Jersey doesn't even want it. Like it's actually part of New Jersey,
they get you back to New York,
and we
huh?
and it's
It's,
all far away from the city. People in Brooklyn wave like, "Hey, don't come over here." That's why they made the toll like $25
it's,
one way.
hey, look, I like you New Jersey people. I didn't much like y'all either. So anytime I got to stop and pay a toll like every 2 miles, I felt like I wanted to be a terrorist up there. I was like, what the hell is this? I mean, really, it's like every 4 or 5 miles, pay a toll, pay a toll. We
And
went like
it
twenty
bunches
six miles,
people up.
paid like $26.
It bunches up all those tractor trailers and cars, all that,
Oh,
and there's like all that pollution around that and whatever.
I
But
don't
yeah,
know what that is, man.
New
But I
Jersey
did like,
Turnpike, you pay as you go.
I
Well, now they
did
have
like,
they have the Easy Pass now.
yeah, but I did like that the convenience stores were in the middle, so you didn't have to actually get off the freeway. You just zip in, zip on, zip in,
Yeah, but
zip
they're
off.
like super expensive,
Oh
man.
yeah, they are. I remember I got out to get Linda Packs there. They were 11.50. I was like, oh, wait, what? I said, sweet, that's double where I live. She, where the hell you live? I said, Louisiana. I said, that's double. Anyway, we got to go. Mike, tell them where they can find you. We're going to get out of here.
Every Tuesday and Thursday in my own brain,
Yeah.
eight, at 8
Linda's
p.m.
brain is
on
working might be a
UPRN.
better thing.
Red Pill News Thursday and Discovery Paranormal every
That's right. I got to
Tuesday.
pick up my red pills tomorrow. I'm glad you said that. Guys, y'all can find me here on Mondays, being bad with Michael or whoever may hear. The girls are off tonight. Oh, happy Canadian Thanksgiving to everyone in
Canadian
Canada.
Thanksgiving.
Y'all, I don't know what y'all eat up there for Canadian Thanksgiving, but y'all be
I
nice and
didn't
send me
Amelia
some.
send you a picture of all that beautiful stuff that she's cooking? Oh my God.
Oh, no. I told her she's not allowed to be a PT anymore, or actually a FT.
No, that's how
Uh,
I want to go. I mean, like,
FT.
at the end, you don't want to go in some hospital bed when you're dying, man. You want to die like a food death, like just have her cook you a nice spread and eat a few bar of butters with it, and you're gone, gone.
Gone.
No,
I've crossed over.
she's an artist, man. Amelia's an artist.
I should have posted this week. I actually cooked porterhouses for the last 2 days, and then the week before that, the day before that, I actually did a nice sirloin. But anyway, we got to go. Thanks again for everyone tuning in to Paranormal Talk with Mike and I. Yes, we got off topic a few times, but you can't expect Mike and I to stay on topic all the time. We need one of the girls to stay on topic all night. We didn't get bad on politics, just a little, because I mean, people kept sending me these
We
horrible
didn't
polls. I mean, I
we
was like,
didn't have
God, I got to
Michelle.
talk about these.
We didn't have Michelle and Amelia to steer us back on course again.
That's right. Actually, Michelle sent us these shocker things, and when we're on the air, we have to wear them, and she just zaps our asses. It's a little
Now
kinky,
that's
but hey, it
kinky.
works. I'm just saying
Kinky,
it works. So,
kinky.
anyway, we got guys.
Very
Again, thanks
kinky.
everyone for tuning in. United Public Radio, Paranormal Talk. Coming up next is the
I
Horseshoe
like her more
Chronicles with
every
Philip
day.
and Julia Syracuse. Y'all have some fun. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.